Motions, which are our business portion of our meeting. We don't allow the public to make comments, interrupt with comments or questions during that time. And so it's been noted that in some occasions there's been some texting among selectmen where they're apparently, texting out and receiving information back. And so as a point of order, I will just remind us that we should not be texting in or out so that no citizens have undue advantage over other citizens who can't speak here in the meeting. So I'll just bring that up and ask you to comply with no texting during the meeting. All right, let's open up citizen comments.
Errol Rhodes, Church Street, and thank you, Chairman Hubner, for that reminder. I've got a simple, I think, comment to make relating to the presentation that was made 2 weeks ago. I think you had encouraged it, and Mr. Whitmore had given the presentation on a sanctuary city legislation. And it has nothing to do with how one feels about it. I may agree with the subject matter of that, but when you take this office, you take an oath. And we had just 3 months ago had a vote on that very issue. The town voted 2-1, 2/3 of the town said that they supported the police policy as it stands. So that's an indication of the public interest on that issue. So until something changes legislatively, given you're taking an oath of office and you're not meant to be bringing stuff like that up, not stuff that's not clearly in the public interest, maybe your private interest, but it'd be terrific if you would simply do the job that you promised to do, keep politics out of this, keep issues out of this. It's just not appropriate in this venue. Elsewhere, it's great. On Facebook, want to send flyers around, want to politic for it, have at it, but not in this room when you are under oath as selectmen. I think that's the appropriate way to handle that kind of thing. Shouldn't have come up at all, I don't think. Thank you.
Other public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move on in the agenda, which is, oh wait, we do have other public, oh, I guess you're coming up for the first item. So we have unfinished business, which is to review the awarding of the bids for paving and roadside mowing.
Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's start with the paving, I guess.
Okay. So you guys received bids from Advanced Paving, Pike, and R&D. When you look at all of the bids collectively, Advanced Paving number is the best all-around number for what the bid was. It's completely up to you guys what you want to do. They're going to be able to do work, and get it done. They gave you the unit cost for stuff that might happen or might not happen. It might just be a little bit, or it could be more, which is going to be basically determined by you guys. The guys that work for us, one just got off vacation today, and a month from now, when the July 4th works up, we'll get another one going on vacation. Between two of the employees, they almost have 4 months off, okay? So they're only going to get so much done before snow flies. It's all time that they earned, and that's the way it is. There's nobody else to come in and take their place when they go on vacation. And like I said, they earned it, and that's the way that is. So as far as getting additional work done for the paving, you're going to have to rely on a contractor. So if you don't want to do anything, I mean, I don't know what to say.
So just to clarify, Pete, the 4 months for the 2 employees, is that because they've accumulated back vacation that they're now just electing to
No,
take?
no, no, that's what they get every year,
Annually.
annually.
So they're getting, on average, 8 weeks per employee.
It's a lot. Especially when there's only two guys that, or, you know, we have 3. It's just that those 2 guys are the key guys. So as far as getting some additional work done, you're going to have to rely on the contractor, and the contractor that has the best all around, he is more than capable of doing the work.
So what I'm hearing you say is Advance has the lowest pricing, but what about the capability of doing preparatory work? You know, are we going to end up spending more with Advance than with one of the others?
It depends on whether or not we have them do additional work, if we have them do ditching, if we have them put under drain in, if we have them hammer ledge. Those things are only going to be made relevant or apparent, I should say, after he grinds the road up. I hope you guys have had a chance to drive the road because it's in pretty rough shape. It's getting to the point now when it comes to plow the road in the winter, it's starting to get to the point where you can't. Bob Heon was plowing that road for the last 2 years, and it's just beating the heck out of his truck. And
Just for the record, you're talking about Griffin Road.
yes, Griffin Road. I mean, it would have been better if we could just keep going on Mount Delight, but that road is in such poor condition, we're getting to the point we're not going to be able to maintain it through the winter.
So you're recommending advanced?
Yes.
Okay. I just have a question for you, because I don't, why is R&D ditching so much more than advanced?
Because they don't want to do it. I don't know. I'd love to get that number.
I'm just curious, I mean,
Well, what it is,
If-
I told them to give it a unit cost, okay? They're going to have to hire a subcontractor probably to do it. I don't think
Okay.
they have the guys to do it, where Advanced has their own guys. Because not only is he a paving company, he has a site company as
Okay.
well. That's probably the main reason why R&D's number is so much higher. And
Right.
Pike would have to use a subcontractor too. I mean, they have all kinds of equipment, but they also have a lot of jobs going on, so.
right. That's a big jump, and I just wanted to make sure that advanced either knew what they were getting into or
Oh, no, he knows.
can do the job and not gonna,
He grew up right down the road, so he knows Deerfield too.
yeah.
And,
I mean,
and I'm
308
not
to
saying,
20,000.
excuse me?
308,000 to 20,000, that's a big jump for
Yeah.
ditching, that's
So,
all.
and all of this extra work is subjective, okay? It needs it, but I also understand the constraints that we're working with. So maybe not as much gets done on the extra stuff, but you're gonna have to do some, because in a few of the locations up there on Griffin Road, if we just grind it and pave it, the road's gonna be pretty much back in that shape within 10 years or less.
Yep.
Because it's on ledge. That's the main problem. It's on ledge, and there's no place for the water to go.
R&D submitted a letter, it just came in the mail today, saying that after reviewing the discussions and watching the May 19th meeting, they had made a mistake on their bid alternate that they had presented, but they did not submit any new numbers for the board to consider. So that's also part of the reason why it's significantly higher than the other 2 competitors. But they were present here when we opened the bids, and then they also watched the meeting, so.
So essentially, they're recognizing a mistake that made them more expensive,
Yeah.
Yes,
but they're not offering, obviously they can't because of the rules. Right?
correct.
So what do we need to do, making a motion to give the paving to advanced?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
as we elect to do so, right? We haven't decided.
So once you make the decision, we can figure out if we're gonna do any of these unit cost extras in certain locations. I'm not saying both sides of the road, all this, that, and the other thing. You know, we'll have to pick out the worst spots and say, okay, we'd like to do this here, and we can total it up, so there'll be a number that you'll be able to look at.
So this will be a high bid.
So, well, so let's, if you look at their unit costs, and we say that we're gonna put in, I think I told them to quote 1,000 feet of under drain. If it winds up being less, it probably would be a hair more, but 1,000 feet of under drain is only 500 feet on each side of the road, which is not very much. So we have to look at it, where it would go, and then we make a decision and figure out whether or not you want to do it.
Other discussion about the paving awarded decision? All right, do we have a motion to approve any of these? Or shall I make a motion to
I
approve?
just made the motion
Oh,
to
you did?
advance, to give the bid to Advance.
Okay, do we have a
With
second?
Pete's recommendation.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of awarding the future 2025 paving to Advance, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. I want to go back to the 8-week vacation thing.
I have no control over that.
Yeah, I know, it's policy and whatever, but does it seem to me that if you have 2 months of vacation for one guy and then 2 months of vacation for another guy, right, and they take them staggered away from,
Generally, they do.
then you have 8, or as you pointed out rightly, 4 months of getting not much done because you only have one person, right? So in situations like that, I know in the private sector, they sometimes ask the 2 employees to take the vacation at the same time to have only a 2-month gap. Is that something we can consider?
No.
I suppose we could, but you really,
I mean, you can't force them, I suppose.
You're
but-
still
my
gonna have
point.
somebody on call. Somebody still has to be there.
so, like, they don't always leave town, but
Yeah,
technically
that's
they're
their
on-
private time, right?
you know what I mean? I don't even tread into that one. I just,
We have to be careful. These are our employees' vacation time that they earn, so we can't tell them when to
no,
take
you
it and
can't.
when
They've
not.
been doing it for 20 years, so it's like.
I'm not suggesting it would be
Oh, I know.
mandatory. I'm just
And I'm
asking
not
if they
saying you
could
are.
coordinate that.
It's unfortunate that it works out that way because of the amount of people working for the highway department, okay? I know there's no money to hire anybody else, I understand that. It's just, it would make things a little more fluid because you would be able to rotate a little better, that's all. It's something for the future.
Okay. You were going to go on to the,
Mowing. So I talked to the company that gave you the bid and submitted it. So last year, we went with the low number, and they basically only mowed about 3.5 to 4 feet off the edge of the road. And that's not what we were expecting.
what company was that?
I forget the name, but it was 2 women, and they did a good job for
This
what
was
they did.
the group from Vermont, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If this is the same company, then they're just talking about mowing back more, that's why their number is double. So it's a matter of, do you want them to take back more, cut back off the edge of the road, and they also go up as well, and cut branches too, when they mow up. That's the main reason in the doubling of the number. I don't have a lawnmower.
So we have a bid from Seawall of 8,000. right?
Yeah.
And we have another bid from Seawall of 16, but it just reflects
The difference of the cut.
right. This one is 8 feet off the pavement and the other one doesn't really say, but it's basically saying we'll do like we did last year, which was about 4 feet.
Yeah. So it's basically,
What was last year's bid for this?
I forget their name.
14, was it 14?
I thought they were less than that. I thought they were like 12,
11?
11, something like that. I forget the exact number, because they were lower than Gary.
Maybe he was 14 and they were 11, like, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds
Um,
familiar.
Pete, in your opinion, with all of the power line trimming and line clearance they've been doing, are there some areas of town that the roadside mowing and the higher level cutting might not be as necessary as other areas?
Yeah, I mean,
Are
there's
there
areas where
hotspots like,
there's areas where like, co-op power went in and mowed stuff, but like, say like up on Mount Delight, the transmission line is out in the woods quite a ways. Some of it comes close, some of it doesn't. It's not consistent. There's places where they did mow with the lawnmower, the brush hogs on the excavators.
right?
But it's not throughout the town, that's all.
I'm just thinking if, the extra $8,000 for the above and beyond mowing, I swore that our standard used to always be 8 feet anyway. Because the mowers on the side of the tractors we've always seen around town are 8 feet. I wonder if we'd be better off letting them do, because $8,000's a pretty good deal if they're gonna cover the 68 miles. And then maybe utilize the money elsewhere on the hot spots in town that really need the cutting back. Because there are some roads that probably don't need any, and then there are some roads that probably need more.
Well, they have to drive all of the road,
Right.
one way or the other, whether they cut
Whether they're
6
cutting
feet
or
or,
just cruising.
so, I mean, that's your call, so, on whether or not you want to spend the money. I mean, it'd have to go around and look, okay, don't cut that, cut this, don't cut that,
Right.
Yeah, someone would have to direct them.
I mean, you'd have to literally be there with
Well,
them.
that's what I'm thinking, like, we must have an idea of what roads need more than other ones. But if it's easier just to lump it all into the one thing, so be it.
I mean, I guess the only thing you could do is talk to them and see if they have some sort of an alternative plan. You have their high number and their low number. Is there something in between? I don't know.
And maybe just moving the equipment from one location to another, uses time, and they would probably not give us much of a discount, but we could talk to them. But I would guess if I was a contractor doing that, I would think,
I wasn't
It's not gonna
looking
be
for
much
a
of a savings.
discount, I was just saying, say we
No, I
spent,
understand what you're saying.
yeah, say we spent the $8,000 to let them do the one pass. And then we know that there are roads and areas on certain roads that need an aggressive cutback. Do we use that $8,000 in an alternative way to have those areas super mowed back? Versus, we're gonna spend that $8,000 and they're just gonna drive around all town, and if it doesn't need anything, they're gonna drive with the mower down or up or off. And we're paying them anyway, versus being able to dictate where they're gonna be and get the most value for the money.
so what if we knew right now on a map that these are half the roads of the town that we want the aggressive cutback that needs it, right?
Well, that's the thing, like like Pete said, we'd have to drive around and see, but if somebody had a knowledge of where that extra mowing or the higher mowing, because this is a separate machine they want to bring in, it looks like, a different mower altogether.
I think it goes on an excavator.
Uh,
If not, it's a boom mower
boom
on a
mower.
tractor.
So it's a separate piece of equipment they're willing to bring in, but whatever you think.
It's not only up to me.
I've followed roadside mowing in other towns, and I've followed them driving around doing a lot of nothing where it doesn't need to be, and
So I suppose we could go back to the seawall and say, if we give you a map with only half the roads indicated that we want the aggressive cutback,
at that point,
I understand exactly what you're saying. I don't know if they're gonna wanna put the effort in to do that.
right?
I mean, because.
Even if they said-
They probably have work, probably, when they drive around, they're probably thinking about just cutting, as opposed to going out and saying, okay, well, this doesn't,
Yeah, right.
I don't know if their bid would accommodate the time that they're gonna have to spend to figure out what we're cutting and what we're not cutting. So I don't know what they carry in their number, saying like, okay, we already know what it is, this is what it is? Or do they want to spend more time driving around town figuring out, okay, we don't need to cut that?
Their bid says that they're gonna drive 64 miles of road one way or another,
Right,
so
so,
driving around in fifth gear instead of third gear.
well, the difference is, are they gonna,
Right.
they're gonna want a number before they get started.
Right.
So the question is, are they gonna come down and drive around in a pickup truck, looking at the road, saying, okay, we're gonna do this and this and that and that? I don't know if that's what they're willing to do.
This is the same company that did it last year.
If it's from Vermont and it's the
No,
two
this is from
women,
Newmarket.
no,
these guys-
then they're not.
Okay. Because I don't think there was a lot of people not happy with what they did last
Well,
year.
right, because they only
that
mowed
wasn't-
like 3 or 4 feet off the edge of the road.
Right.
Okay?
So we don't want the
Because
8,000.
Gary had called me on that and asked me, and I said, but that's what their quote says.
Right.
Okay? So, expectations weren't met.
So we don't want to go with this,
The lower number is only gonna do the right around the edge of the road.
we want this one. To get
Yeah,
the
I mean-
job that we need done.
I know that there's gonna be areas like Jared said. I mean, literally, without going out and subjectively going, okay, we're not gonna cut here, we're not gonna cut there, and putting flags up. You know, and I don't know how they deal with that. You know, whether they would say, nah, that's all right, we won't do it, or I don't know what they would say.
Well, if we did a thin job last year, we need an aggressive job this year, so it looks like there's only one
There
thing.
was some intersections that didn't get cut last year and, right?
Yeah, they didn't cut the brush higher, like, you know, like in front of a stop sign and stuff like that.
And this is a matter of public safety compelling view of drivers and whatnot, right? So,
I would motion to award the 2025 roadside mowing bid to Seawall for 16,000.
I'll second the motion. Any discussion? Greg, you've been kind of quiet. It's all good. All right, seeing none, all in favor of awarding the 2025 mowing to Seawall at 16,000 for the 8-foot cutback, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay.
We have a Mitchie Concrete, we signed the contract with them, and, you know, we need to get plans out of them, you know, after they've got it designed and something on paper. Once we get something like that, then we can start thinking about putting it out to bid. I would assume that, based on the conversation I had with him, it would be, unless something changes, he's thinking September before it's constructed. With all the rain we've had right now, hopefully it will stop raining and it will dry out, because if we have, it can be done, it just costs more money to have it done when there's a lot more water, that's all. One other thing is, I asked Karen to put out to get a request for plowing people, plowing trucks. And we're gonna start early, because I don't know who's gonna plow. I don't think we wanna wait till November 1st to figure out who's gonna plow. So hopefully we'll get some people.
I've been looking at, checking out some of the surrounding towns and their policies to get plow people. Do you think we can change that to entice people to come plow for us?
It's all about the money.
Right,
I mean, some towns pay a stipend where they get a check every month. I guess we'd have to see what we got left in the budget right now till December 31st, okay? And see what we have left in there for contractors, and I don't think it's, If we're lucky, it's 30,000.
But we need, I mean, in my mind, Pete, we need bigger trucks.
I know. That's
So-
why I told her to put it out, but the problem is, we don't have a lot of guys around now with six-wheelers and plows. I mean, that was the good thing about Steve Rollins. He had 5 trucks that were big, you know. Bob is the only subcontractor with a full-size six-wheeler. A lot of people don't want to spend the money on those trucks. It would be much better if we had six-wheel trucks plowing the roads.
Aren't we still competing with the state of New Hampshire for plow service, and the larger six-wheel trucks are likely being scarfed up by the state of New
They're having
Hampshire?
a hard time getting trucks, right?
Yes.
The ones they got, they treat them fairly well.
Yeah, so, I mean, we can try to find out something. I mean, obviously, it's a limited amount of money, but if we can come up with a number, and we can get some people on the hook, saying, realizing that they're gonna get X, maybe we can get some bigger trucks. Obviously, like I said, bigger trucks plow the roads faster. That's just the way it is. We've been lucky just to get what we got. So,
I don't think this is a year to be talking about paying more for plowing.
no,
No,
but,
you might not be paying more
well,
up front, but when it takes a pickup
twice,
to, right, and a
Both
big truck
ways.
once,
right.
could be less.
Well, generally, those trucks are gonna be anywhere from $135 to $150 an hour, and the one-ton trucks right now are at 110. So it's a matter of finding, a lot of the bigger trucks will go to the highway because it's smoother. They're on the highway, and they go 35 miles an hour, and they go down to the next off-ramp, turn around, go back the other way. That's one of the reasons why they go to the state. Like I said, let's get the ad out and see what we get. Then we'll, see if we can, that's why we start now. See if we can get some bigger trucks.
I'd like to get together with somebody and go over a couple of offers before we put the ad out, though.
Well, we want to get people interested in plowing. We haven't put any money out.
No, I know, but they're gonna say, oh, they did this last year, so they don't pay anything, we're not gonna go.
Well, I understand what you're saying. It's a matter of, I know you don't want to hear it, but we're gonna have to pay.
Bigger trucks carry more sand and salt on them as well.
Yeah, they can go farther,
Right.
Less trips,
Yeah, it's-
less trips coming back to the shed.
right. But they want to get paid. So,
I think you're just suggesting that we cast the net now and see what we get in response to lining up some plows.
yeah, we need to
then-
start now. We gotta
starting now.
We gotta get going on it. 'Cause I know we've had a lot of rain. We're waiting for sun, but it's not that far away.
We'll do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep.
One more thing for Pete,
Did we,
the next page.
did we table the excavator thing
I don't think so. We gave it to them.
No, you voted 1 month.
1 month?
Yeah.
Nottingham Road.
Yeah, I'm just reading this. So, does Pete have this yet?
We talked about this a few meetings ago. So this is just a follow-up.
Okay, so this is the follow-up in our packet. So we have this follow-up on the Nottingham Road, McLeod property, right? Where they want to change the driveway into a private road.
Yeah, what was the holdup on it?
We were following up from 2 weeks ago, I believe, that Pete,
There was a holdup. What was it?
If they actually created a road to
Oh, is
Pete's
that what it was?
satisfaction.
right? He was going to inspect it, I think, right?
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's wait for Pete.
Well, Pete, you ain't done.
So Pete,
Yes.
We have this one more issue that's old business, but it's regarding your bailiwick. So this is that road on Nottingham Road where the driveway of Mrs. McLeod. And
Yeah,
you were going to follow up, I believe.
Yeah, I did go out and take a look at it. They've already got a foundation and everything in, and what it is, it's going to be I think there's going to be 2 units off the driveway. It's a shared driveway, and they did come before the planning board. And it did get approved.
Okay, so that's approved. And then there was the naming of the road, right?
I don't, you got, it's up to you.
That's up to us. But this driveway, is it,
So if you're going down
Acceptable?
Nottingham,
right, is it
Just before you-
acceptable for a private road?
yeah, well, it's the bare minimum. So it's just before the Nottingham line on the left.
I think I know where it is.
So yeah, they're building a house there, and it's probably, their driveway off the driveway is probably in 150 feet, something like that. But as far as the name goes,
That's up to us.
All right, so we can consider that
Yeah.
it's proper design for driveway,
Yeah.
meeting minimum standards.
yeah,
And then I think it's up for us to finish the job of deciding of the 5 proposed names. And I think we usually consult with the safety and fire and rescue about duplication of names or confusion that might be caused by a new name that might be confused with another road.
Says they've already been approved by E911.
No, I don't think we have to check. I mean, it's not like this number 1, the first one they would like. I don't see any confusion with that.
Right, it says that all of the below names, all 5, have already been approved by the 911.
Right.
And they're listed in order of preference, so just number 1.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion?
We have a motion to allow them for Nottingfield Acres for their private road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of allowing Nottingfield Acres as the new road, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? All right, Ray Ellis, you're up for the various problems we're having at George B. White. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. So, as asked, I contacted 5 contractors, all fairly big companies: Al Terry Plumbing, Denron Hall, Twombly Plumbing, AJ LeBlanc, and Granite State Plumbing, to come down and give us bids about the possibility of changing from copper to PEX. It was 280 feet all the way down to the other end of the building to where Charlie's is. So the only one that has given me a bid and came back twice was Granite Group,
Granite Group?
Granite State Plumbing and Heating, yeah. So they said that it would be a labor-intensive job, but they have 3-inch PEX now that is as big as the 3-inch copper that we have in here now. And they would run a 3-inch PEX from here all the way over to the hallway here and all the way down to the very end of the building. And they would do that first, and then after, they would go back and tie into that main, that would be the main now. And they would tie into that wherever it needed to go, left, right, whatever, with shut-offs all the way down through in case of any accidents. So you'd be able to shut it off. He said it would take 2 men about 4 weeks to complete. So, and the price is a little hefty. It came in at $62,600. But that would eliminate all copper in this building. It would be all run by PEX. The copper would stay there. They would cap it off and leave it. And that's up to us to remove at some point because it would be too labor intensive for these guys to take it down. And the copper is still valuable, so if we did take it all down, we could turn it to hardening metals and get some money back, if you choose to go that way. Back on the first one with Second Wind Water and the state of New Hampshire, They proposed that we went to the orthophosphate liquid injection system, and they came back with a price of $8,500 to put that in. But we did some research today and found out that it doesn't come with the phosphate liquid, and that comes in a 5-gallon pail, and it's $700 to $800 for each pail.
How long
So
does
it's
a
very
pail-
expensive.
How long does a pail last?
Well, it's going to be hard to tell because in the beginning, because we're way behind and the state wants us to have the water cleaned up within 6 months, that he'll have to turn it up in the beginning to coat the pipes from here all the way to Charlie's. So the first 5-gallon bucket's going to get used up pretty fast, he said, probably 3 weeks. And then we'll have to spend another $800 to get another 5-gallon pail. With that, there's also maintenance on the machine, and it have to be done once a year. And last time, just for this machine, not talking about that machine, it was $1,400 a year for the maintenance. And they said once a year, we have to, the injection tubes have to be replaced in the orthophosphate unit. So that would mean after it was installed at $8,500, the total bill would be $9,200 just to get started.
Plus $800 a pail every time we need it.
After that, yeah. And then the $1,400 a year for maintenance.
And this orthophosphate liquid, of course, is in the drinking supply of the water. That's how it coats the pipes,
It
right?
does, it coats the pipe.
So every drink you're taking,
It's harmless to the people.
they say it's harmless.
That's what he says, he said it's approved drinking.
Would the upgrading of these pipes omit the soda ash
Yeah.
machine? Like, we could do away with that and its annual maintenance, monthly maintenance?
So the soda ash is adjusting the pH, right?
Right, and the analytical, yeah,
But that's also from the copper piping.
correct.
Do we have any water quality issues minus, like, taking the copper out of the equation? Are there any known water quality issues with the water just coming straight out of the ground?
Nope, we just checked it at the source coming in from the well and into the building, and that passed. It's just when we're putting it down our pipe system, something's changed over the years, or acidity in the water or whatever, it's releasing the copper into the drinking water.
So we know that the problem is the copper piping, not the well itself. There's no copper coming out of the well, or not any undue amount of copper, let's say.
Well, not anything. I mean, that would just be one issue, but yeah, nothing.
And I talked to Michael Hoppity Pierce, he's a commercial water specialist at Second Wind. He couldn't make it tonight, but he said, he gave me his card here with his cell phone number. If there's any questions that I can't answer, or the estimate that he gave us can't answer, that you're free will to call him tonight if you need to.
And we've had some, let's say, less than stellar performance from Second Wind on some systems that we've used with them, where they've claimed that they would work and they haven't worked as well as they claim, let's say.
But again, this just seems like a Band-Aid.
Yeah, right. It's a chemical Band-Aid. On the other hand, we're in a budget crisis.
Right.
Yeah.
The PEX would be, overall, would be less maintenance and, once it's up and running and done. But the question of the fact is, it's $62,600. Where's that money coming from?
Well, and I think then you run into a timing issue, right? Because the state gave us until November of '25 in order to come into full compliance. If you go with the PEX solution, you're looking at a warrant article for town meeting in '26. Then once you do the install, 4 weeks of labor, right? I mean, you're looking at a year out from now before you would see any improvement.
So you're saying that we would have to warrant article approve the 62,000 expense?
Well, you don't have to, but I mean, I don't see you having you don't have those dollars in your '25 budget. And even the capital reserve fund only has about, I think, $28,000 in it.
So what do we have in the budget? Are you aware of how much we do have if we decided to spend it all on this?
We'd have to we'd have to cut something else in order to be able to offset this amount, right? Because there wasn't an expenditure for $62,000 that's allotted in your
Right.
budget. It's not earmarked.
So the only way we could stretch the budget is to use what we have plus the trust funds and then steal something from somebody else to make the difference.
Would the state be willing to extend our compliance certificate after we install this, knowing that we're waiting for it to work? Because I believe there's a period for it to actually coat the pipes and come back with different water tests.
Yeah,
If we install the $85,000 or $9,000 system, I wonder if they would be willing to
Well, we would,
give us the time necessary to get it to work.
they've given you 2 years since the date that they gave you the notice of deficiency. So November is when that 2-year expires.
November of this year?
November of this year, yes.
So I wonder if we install this, if they'll extend that.
So we won't have met compliance at that point, but they are looking for you to start making progress, right? So they'll have to, if you want to move forward with the orthophosphate system, the state still needs to approve the quote and the install before you can move forward. So they still want to review everything and your vendors.
Well, in all fairness, we did try to fix the issue, and that didn't work.
Correct.
So we have been going forward, but now we want to put another Band-Aid and hope that it works.
And then we need to have 2 positive tests,
Right,
2 passing water tests before we can meet full compliance.
It's not like we haven't done anything to try and remedy it.
And if we go with the PEX, you could probably take this machine out,
Right?
the one that we got here, so we'll have that maintenance gone, and we won't be buying the soda ash anymore in 50-pound bags.
Yeah, it's kind of like doing it right and paying the price now or
Right.
Band-Aiding it and continuing to have lots of maintenance issues and things.
It's a tough decision that we're
Is
making.
there any grants or anything that could help us with this?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I've found. There was one for septic systems, but it's geared more towards municipalities that have public water and sewer, not towards single buildings.
I just hate to throw more money out there for nothing.
The state's doing a drinking water class. They just sent us an invitation today.
I would love to get it fixed right, but if we don't have the money to do it, then we don't have the money to do it.
It's just gonna keep costing us money, though, if it doesn't do it right.
You're exactly right.
So what do we do?
So we can Band-Aid it with the phosphate liquid, and then we can put a warrant out on the next election for a $62,000 expense to replace the GB White copper with.
Cost us an extra $10,000 to do that.
The other positive to that, though, is I would really like to have more than one quote. I know he tried and some people didn't get back, but maybe with a few more months of waiting, we could entice somebody else to actually put a number on it.
Yeah, but we don't have those 2 more months of waiting.
AG LeBlanc called me today and said they would be here this Thursday. They couldn't make it. They canceled before.
So
And
maybe
the
we
other
wait one
3
more meeting.
called and said it's too big a job for them. They ain't got the manpower right now.
Well, no, the other thing that you want to consider too is, I mean, it's very time intensive of raise time plus these vendors' time every time they come out and quote and walk and do the estimates. It's time for them to walk the building, it's time for them to put their eyes on everything so that they can prepare the quote, and then it's labor intensive for them to actually
Raise job.
prepare the
It's
documents.
their job, and that's how we get the best price with somebody who
Right.
knows what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, it is, but then we want to be ready that we're going to pull the trigger on a project, right? We don't want to, we can't keep calling the vendors out to quote everything and then not move forward on a project. That's all.
Well, I think we could wait another week, and if Jade, if. well,
AJ LeBlanc.
Thursday.
I would love a second price to compare it to, so I motion that we table it for a week.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table it for a week or 2 weeks.
Well, until the next meeting, when you said Thursday, he'll be out.
He's coming Thursday. Oh, that's what they said this morning, so.
So table it until next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of tabling it until the next meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you, Ray. All right, moving on in the agenda into regular business. So we have the review of the outstanding minutes of May 19th. We have two sets of minutes, one from the public session and one from the non-public session. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes from May 19th, both the public session and the non-public
I'll
session?
make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, then we have vouchers, payroll manifest for 5/27 in the amount of $98,656.94 as a gross. And the net pay is $64,137.82.
That was signed last week.
And that was signed last week already because we're in the off week. And then accounts payable, we have the 5/27 amount of $31,745.27. And then for June 3rd, which is tomorrow, we have accounts payable of $92,202.00.
We have to make a motion to accept these? No, we already did.
Well, the ones that we already signed, right, we don't motion
Okay.
on, but these are account payable ones that we're going to sign here, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to pay the accounts payable manifest.
We have a motion,
Second.
we have a second. Any further discussion on accounts payable for June 3rd? All in favor of accepting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay.
Dead River, who was awarded the diesel bid, they have a commercial account application that they need signed by the chair to open the account.
Okay, so we have no account with them yet.
Correct. So they want a signature as a guarantor and then a couple of spots for the initials, so I flagged those.
And this is for all to sign, or there's two spots I see? Just sign the one spot?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we have this application for an account with Dead River Company for the diesel,
Yes.
and they want the chair to sign to set up an account.
I'll make a motion to have the chair sign the Dead River application.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? I can just go down to the thing. Next up,
I have appointment slips for Parks and Rec Commission for a term of 3 years for Catherine Libby, Greg McHugh, and Sean Morrissey.
It's you.
all right, Craig McHugh, Sean Morrissey, and Catherine
Libby.
Libby, okay. Yeah, Catherine Libby. Yeah. Any motion to accept the appointment of these three to the Parks and Rec Commission?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on these?
Abstain.
Okay, we have one intention to abstain, that's fine. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of appointing these as proposed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. I think there's a date at the bottom there. Put the date down at the bottom.
And then I have one tax warrant for a gravel tax, and then 6 warrants for timber tax. So do you want the amounts listed, and then I'll pass them all and you do one motion?
I think that'd be
Okay.
fine, yeah.
So the report of excavated material is for $131.56. There is a timber cut for $402.28. A timber cut for $273.27. A timber cut for $4,455.72. A timber cut for $180.77. A timber cut for $99. And a timber cut for $241.88. So these are values based off of the report submitted for actual amounts of wood cut and the amount of material excavated.
And how do we review these to know that they're correct? Is it,
So the amount that they actually cut or excavate is submitted in from the vendor, and then the amount that you tax is set by the state. So the state sets, like for a timber cut, the state says that if you cut these trees and the quality of wood is this, they give you, they set the high and the low value on what you're allowed to tax. So those are the tax estimates. It's 10% based off of what is actually cut.
and who actually calculates the amounts?
The logger submits the amount that's calculated. So they submit it to the state, and then they submit a copy to the town.
Okay, so the state reviews it as well.
Yep, and so the state forester goes out and makes sure that those are accurate amounts, and similarly with excavation.
All right, we have 6 timber cuts and 1 gravel. So the amounts have been read, they're into the record already. So do we have a motion to accept these taxes?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of accepting these, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
And so for signatures on the excavation, it's just the one signature on the warrant.
Yep.
For the timber, there's 6 timbers, there's 2 signatures required, one for the warrant and one for the certification of woodcut.
Okay, thank you. That's the one. That's the gravel.
No, you have to hit a box or anything.
Karen, we don't see any box to check that says that it's accepted or anything. Is there any such place to tick off a box?
No,
No, okay. Just the signature does.
just a signature. The certification form is the box, that's the lichen.
So this will pay about 1/10 of the PEX line.
Every bit helps.
Just two signatures.
These take quite a while to get to us, huh?
Yes. The loggers have usually annually until June 1st to submit the reports of woodcut.
So they can accumulate an entire year of cutting and then submit it one time.
Yep.
That feedback. Like something's tapping on the microphone.
Thingy fell off.
Goes on this page. Oh, this page.
I had to say something.
I think it's just the table.
It's a table.
Yeah.
It might be Cindy's mic because it's a little lower than yours.
It's me. Just want everybody to know I'm here.
I didn't even hear it till he said something.
Get used to it.
Packets are made for right-handed people.
For my report?
Is that the end of the signatures and correspondence?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move on to our town administrator's report. You have a copy in your folder, or in your packet.
So traffic control at the intersection of Parade and Nottingham Road. I checked in with Lieutenant Lavoy because Chief Duquette was on vacation. And Lieutenant Lavoy looked up the calls for service for the last 10 years. There was one car accident at that intersection over that time period, and it did not include 2 motor vehicles. It was 1 motor vehicle and a deer. So there is no historical crash data that would signify there to be a safety hazard to prompt changing the signage to alter driver behavior at that intersection. So I think you can leave the yield sign.
Thank you.
So we had a concern by a citizen and that it got improperly installed without our approval. We reversed that as soon as we found out about it. And I guess the only question I want to ask is, do we want to review a need for a stop sign at that intersection? Does any selectman feel, based on Lieutenant Lavoy's report, that we should or shouldn't have one? We still have a concern by a citizen.
Sounds like the lieutenant's report says there's been no issue.
And to put a stop sign there, it would cause more of a hazard than it would. not having one.
And part of the substance of the complaint was that people weren't obeying the yield sign. They were just sailing on through and not looking, for oncoming traffic. That's up to our police department to enforce all of our stop signs and yield signs all over town, so.
I think they added a sign, like a warning yield coming up sign. I think there's an additional sign now in the parade or in the triangle.
Yeah, I went through there and I saw the same thing. There's like a warning that there's a yield ahead,
Yeah.
and then there's the actual yield sign. Now, I don't know if that's a change or whether was always there.
I don't know, can we put another yield sign on the other side of the travel road?
Can't dual yield an intersection.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about Nottingham Road. Let's put another sign on the other side of Parade. So there's two signs for Parade Road? I mean, I don't know,
Just one on each side.
right, one on each side,
You want one on the left and one on the right as you're going
Parade,
Nottingham Road.
right. I mean, would that help? I don't know. There has,
This is what it is. It's, maybe there's only been one accident in 10 years, but there's probably been more than a few near misses of people just blowing through the thing. That's all it comes down to.
right. I mean, we
And
can't
that's what the
expect the
complaint
police to sit up there
Right.
24/7. And this has come up in the
There's
past.
a yield sign on the other side, it's just a matter of whether or not people are gonna yield. It's like the stop sign and the yield sign down on the Range Road Bridge. Some people stop, some people yield, some people blow right through.
I don't know how they blow through it, because I'd lose my exhaust if I did. But yeah,
When I watch people do it,
right.
some stop, some don't. Some yield, some don't. They just, I'm there first, I'm going.
So do we have a matter of public safety at this intersection? That's the one question. And would it improve if we changed some signage? That's really all I want to answer here.
I don't see a harm in putting another yield sign. I mean, if,
So you have a yield sign on
Yeah.
each side of the road?
yeah, I don't see how it would detract from anything. If it helps, it helps. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but it's,
Trying to
a
picture
rather
what's
simple,
on the other side of the road
simple
right
solution.
there.
Yeah, somebody's lawn.
Isn't that Shane Carter's front yard?
No, it's after that.
And if we do that at this intersection, does that set any precedent for doing it at other intersections?
Well, we can't put a stop sign there. You can't do it.
Okay, I don't think we're talking about that. We're just
I
talking
know, but
about
what
your
else? I'm
proposal.
just trying to find a solution to make it a little bit more safer or a little bit more visible. I think at one point they talked about putting a yield sign up there with the lights.
Yeah,
Like the flashing ones?
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what we talked about last time this came up.
And I think if there had been a history of accidents, we would feel compelled to do something more than we're doing, right? But with only one deer hitting a car
I
in
think
10
changing
years.
the traffic pattern after 100 years would probably be the wrong move with no accidents there. I'd say leave it. And if they wanted to make sure, because even the sign that's there, it's big, it's bright, it's new, fresh
Yeah,
looking.
it is right in
yield
your
sign.
face on the telephone
Right.
pole.
Just let it ride.
I mean, just stop there, Will, next time you go up in your truck. Stop there and try and look and see what's coming from Nottingham Road. You can't.
It is difficult to see because of the
That's a
angle.
traveling intersection, because when I travel that intersection, you're looking off to the right to see if somebody's coming while you're in motion. And if somebody was stopped right there, I'd probably hit them, because I'm looking that way, the way you navigate that, especially if you're in a vehicle with no rear window, like a logging truck or a dump truck. So stopping people there causes more of a hazard to me than somebody not yielding.
And I suppose speed is also a factor, right? People not slowing down.
That comes down to traffic enforcement, and that's not our job.
Well, it's our
Well,
responsibility.
it's our
to the town.
responsibility, but if people aren't going to obey the signs, you could put a sign that says, left-hand yellow there. They're not going to do it.
All right. Do we have any motion entertained by any selectman on this issue?
We want a motion to leave it as is, or
Well, we have,
what are you looking for?
leaving it as is no action in this case.
Right, no action.
All right. Next report.
Just to follow up on House Bill 511, which was the legislation that Greg brought up at the last meeting. The department's current policy restricts enforcement of federal immigration law to those arrested for a Class A misdemeanor or felony only. So the new legislation would lower the threshold to any violation of state law, which could be any motor vehicle violation at all. So it would just lower that threshold significantly.
So let me start this discussion by saying that the town of Deerfield is obligated to comply with state laws.
Yes,
And we are obligated to instruct our police department to comply with all state laws. Although there was a vote, as was brought up by the citizen making the comment, at that time, to maintain the enforcement as the police had been doing it. If the laws change, so if we get an actual law that the state law requires that, then our police department is obligated by law to comply with those laws. Greg, do you have any other different understanding of that?
No, that's my understanding. And it was, I mean, AOT did sign off on these, so.
And now it is law at this time, or it takes effect at a certain date?
They did have effective dates, so I can, let me see here. So House Bill 511 passed. The effective date was January 1st, 2026. I mean, they all passed. Let's see, Senate Bill 62, January 1st, 2026. That's a few sections of it. The remainder of the act shall take effect 60 days after its passage.
So 60 days,
Yeah, and it was signed just a few days ago.
right? Okay, so again, we're anticipating a change, and the change really is that up until this time, the federal immigration law was applied to those arrested for a Class A misdemeanor or a felony. And now the new legislation will lower that threshold to any violation of state law, which could be a minor traffic violation such as speeding, for instance. So it is a significant change in the procedure. So just to make the public aware that the state has passed that, and in 60 days it will be enforced.
Well, portions of it will be, yeah, and the rest of it in January 1st, so.
Oh, I see, okay. Okay. Any further discussion on that item? No. All right,
Okay.
next.
the Overwatch grant, which is the grant, the IT grant for the Microsoft licensing. I checked with Steve Gemelli, and he said that it would not produce any significant savings to the town. So the way that it is set up now is that they need to update 22 computers with Office by October of 2025, as those versions will no longer receive security updates. And 7 computers need Office updated by 2026. But the way that the current programming and licensing works, it's a one-time cost with support expiring in October of 2029. So there would be no savings produced by purchasing the licenses, but there is increased functionality by moving to Microsoft 365.
And the cost, according to the report, is $4,100 for the security updates
Yes,
and $1,300 for the Office suite, right?
for 7 computers, so for 7 licenses.
Right. So that's a total cost of $5,400. Are you looking for an approval tonight to purchase those things?
No, that was just to, you guys had approved moving forward with the grant at the last meeting, but you had asked if that would produce any savings or if that would offset any current budgetary items. So these are items that are currently in the budget that would be done away with, and then in lieu of, we would be purchasing the Microsoft licenses on a subscription basis. But the first 3 years are free.
So this is going to cost us, what'd you say?
$5,400.
And this says keeping our present email set up, it is still cheaper than the Microsoft Office.
It is, but there is no functionality, right? So the emails that you have now, it's the way that it's hosted. You can't have email function really on your phone. You can't use an out-of-office assistant. So there are certain drawbacks to the way the email is working now as a way that it should function.
Halfway through after second one.
Any discussion further on this item? Cindy, you don't look happy. You want all that
No, I mean, if we
functionality?
can keep this email, that's not going to cost us $5,400. I don't understand.
What
Just
we're gain-
because it's a different, yeah, speak out. I don't know.
Different license or,
Wasn't it a functionality issue for the program?
Well, it is. It increases the functionality, right? So like the email that you have now, you can't put that on your phone. It doesn't sync. So your desktop and your mobile options don't sync. So there's no real capability for someone to be able to check their emails on their phone. You can send an email from your phone, but then when you get to your desk, it's not there. And the email version that I have on my phone, it will only show me sent emails that I sent from my phone. It won't show me the sent items that I sent on my desk. So there's no real, but the inbox will sync, but the sent items don't, which is odd. So there is some functionality that's not there, right? There's not an option to do an out-of-office assistant. So if you go away on a vacation, you can't let the public know. Which I think just in today's technology age, it just seems a little bizarre.
And this
but-
is only for 5 years. We'd have to purchase it again in another 5 years.
Well, those ongoing costs, those are items that that you're recurringly purchasing every 5 years regardless. That's what you're doing today. So instead, alternatively, you'd be purchasing licenses. And those are paid monthly through Microsoft.
so I think it's a matter of offsetting efficiency versus cost, right? The town employees, and for, well, all of the committee members and all of us as well.
So the committee members would have a different level of licensing because those are email only. And then staff would have a higher licensing because it would include the Microsoft suite. So your Office, the Microsoft Word, the Excel, the PowerPoint suite, Outlook.
So it seems like they're asking for a non-objection to move ahead with what's in the budget to do this, you know. And there is money in the budget for software, isn't there?
Well, the first 3 years is free.
It's free.
Yeah,
But normally in the default budget, we would have money for some software upgrades.
correct.
The first 3 years are free. Is there a contract after that or an obligation, or can we go?
No, but then it would be a matter of whether or not you would want to convert, and then the conversion cost to something else if you wanted to use a different platform at that time.
So based on it being free and having no obligation, it seems to me, I'll suggest that we
Free for,
non-object.
free for 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
I have no objection to it.
Okay.
The C&D dumpster, just an update. This time period so you made the decision on 4/22 to stop accepting C&D material at the transfer station. From that time period to May 22nd, you had only had 3 hauls. So the first 2 was to empty and remove the C&D right after the vote was taken, and then you had 1 bulky load disposal in May. So in comparison, over that same time period in '24, you had 11 hauls over that time period over '24. So significant savings in that time period.
So based on the cost per haul, how do we estimate that savings?
So there was 11 loads in '24, and it cost about $13,000. So it was an average of $1,200 a load. So for 8 loads, it was saving about $9,700 by not disposing of those.
Is that factoring in what people have paid to put
That is-
in the CD?
Just factoring in expenses only.
So we would have collected in that same period some fees.
Right, and that's not in here, though.
not-
That doesn't
So it's
reflect that.
not totally 97, it's 9,700 of expense,
Of
but it's not,
expenses, right.
not net because of the fees.
The application for graduation banners on the utility poles was approved by Eversource, and Catherine Dill had been notified, so she can move forward with that.
They were given certain places to put them, though, right?
Correct.
They can't go to Church Street to,
Correct, we submitted in the list of poles that they would be attached to on a temporary basis.
And just let me interject something, which is I'd like to thank the Fisher family for their supplying of the flags, which we're all seeing now in that same region. And for their generous support of doing that for free for the town.
The Budget Committee has requested an alternate to serve if Will is absent.
So unlike other years, this year they're saying that if one of the two appointed members, which is the select board chair and the school board chair, cannot attend, then they want to have an alternate who can sit in the meeting so that they have all the votes that they should have. Greg has indicated that he's willing to do the job, so I would nominate Greg to be the alternate.
Second, this was the second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for Greg Whitmore to be the alternate for the NBC. All in favor, or any further discussion? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
13 Pine Ave was taken by tax deed in February. The previous owners were sent certified letters given their first right of refusal, and we received no response. So do you wish to proceed with the disposal of the property by sealed bid or public auction?
Well, I think that's almost a given because that's our procedure, right?
Yep, do you have a preference on which of those you'd prefer?
Sealed bid or public auction. I'm not sure I know any advantages or disadvantages to the two. Do you know of any?
Sealed bid, you don't know what the other person's bidding against.
Right. Do you tend to get a better price if you go with a public auction because there's a bidding up, so to speak?
Right.
Yeah, I'd lean towards a public auction.
Further discussion? Seems like we're in a consensus. Okay. Let's go with a public auction then.
So there is a statute that allows the selectmen the authority to transfer funds between line items. So what I'm requesting here is in these 4 budgets is, these are all positions that have either been reclassified from full-time to part-time or vice versa. And so the budget dollars sit, like in the administration budget, there was a part-time employee that is now full-time. And so the budget dollars sit in a part-time salary line, but as we expend payroll expenses biweekly, they're expended out of the full-time salary line. So it skews the percentages of the budget dollars that are spent. So it's the same situation in the town clerk and building inspector and the transfer station. So I'm just asking permission to reallocate those fund dollars. It still represents the same bottom line dollars in each of those budgets. So it's just a more efficient way for us to be able to manage those budgets.
Right, so in the default budget, the citizens have already approved all these amounts. It's just that they are approved for part-time and full-time, and we don't have the part-time in the case of the administrator. So it's just rearranging it a little bit. In the past, we've actually not even approved it. We just allowed the town administrator to rearrange it on their own, but this town administrator is asking us to approve it, so.
Well, now that I know that, I'll do it myself.
No, I think we won't tell her that. Any umbrage or issue with rearranging this? No, okay, so,
And thank you for at least keeping us up to date.
right.
In the current budget, year-to-date, there is $49,000 remaining in salaries for transfer station employees. In order to meet that budget, we'll have to rearrange some of the hours a little bit. So the coordinator is budgeted for 28 hours. The 2 other employees that were just hired will be budgeted at 24 hours each, and then we'll have a floater at 8 hours. So in order to sort of accommodate that schedule, we'd be looking to cut open hours by 1 hour each day. So I met with Missy, and what she has proposed is changing the open hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays to 11 to 5:45, and on Saturdays, opening 1 hour later and being open from 8 to 3:45 on Saturdays.
So Karen and I discussed this earlier today, and my thought was not to trim the later hour, because right now we're open until 6:45, but to trim the first hour, because people who go to work and come home from work and then want to go to the transfer station would be less apt to be able to do that. Whereas, so I think the pain will be less felt if we open from 12 to 6:45 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, rather than the proposed 11 to 5:45. That's my only input on it.
The only one that bothers me is the Saturdays. I think there is a decent amount of traffic between 7 and 8 on Saturdays.
People got out early.
Yeah.
So the proposal was to wait until 8 o'clock and then close at,
3:45.
so should we do the same there? Leave well, it's actually the opposite of what I'm doing on Tuesday and
Yeah.
Thursday. Leave the earlier hour still there and close it early, 1 hour early.
I'd almost rather just strip it half hour away from Tuesday and Thursday and keep Saturday as it is.
That's another idea.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
That was very fast. That would work, right?
Yep. Do you want to trim a half hour from the beginning or the end? Do you have a preference?
Beginning.
So
So it would
12:30 to
be
6:45?
12, it would be from 12:30, right?
Yep.
12:30 to 6:45.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then 7 to 3:45 on Saturdays.
Right, no change on Saturday.
Okay. And then the intention would be to use the floater for 4 hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the middle of the shift, so that would be able to provide a break time for the employees that are there the full day, and also give them a couple of hours that they can go into the barn and process while 2 people are standing at the hoppers and collecting material.
With the amount of manpower we have there now, cutting these hours will be okay.
Yes,
They'll be able to.
So are we looking to be fully staffed now?
yes.
So we have 3 full-time, 3,
3 regular and then a float.
perfect.
Yes. Okay, in your packet is a a memo from the town clerk tax collector Kelly Roberts. So I'll attach this into the minutes and I'll just give you a couple of highlights. Tax bills were mailed on May 21st and the first issue tax bill is due July 1st. The town clerk's office was closed on May 14th and they attended a training. Diane Kendall is participating in her second year of certification through the Tax Collectors Association and the Town Clerks Association. Dog license, civil forfeitures for dog licenses will begin between June 1st and June 20th. Tax liens will be sent out July 28th with execution date on August 29th. They have adopted a new policy requiring prior registration or renewal notice in order to process your current year's motor vehicle registration renewal. And they are proposing a new process or a policy to formalize the oath of office process. And that policy is in your packet also. And they had a vacancy from a part-time clerk, and they would be looking to fill that position, but not until July 1st. Okay.
Do you think it's possible, from discussions with Kelly, that the filling of the vacancy would allow for a greater number of hours of the clerk office to be open? Because I think part of the justification anyway was that we didn't have the manpower to cover it all.
I can follow up with Kelly to see if she would have the intention of changing her hours, but I don't believe that she will be changing them, but I will double check.
Okay. Any questions about the tax collector's, town clerk's report? We also have in our packet a graph showing the tax receipts by month and the number of transactions of the clerk by month. Also, the change in the motor vehicle thing is according to an RSA, so that's not up for discussion, I guess. And you're going to include all this in the minutes?
Yes.
All right, next item.
The library is looking to apply for an L-chip stewardship plan. So the purpose of the plan is to assist in planning and carrying out for routine and non-routine work, maintenance work at the library. So they are using this first round of application to focus on the egress downstairs, I believe. And there's a 50% match that is required, but the library, they have private grant funds that they can use for that match should they be awarded the grant.
I see Ann is here.
Ann is here if you have more questions.
So what action do we need to take at this time for that?
They are looking for you to sign a property owner acknowledgement form that just says that you are aware that they're applying for this grant and that there's a match, and that there may be some restrictions. And that's included in your packet as well, this L-chip investment program. They're just looking for you to sign as the property owner.
All right, we have that in our packets. Is there any discussion about signing as property owner for this work with a 50-50 match, which is being applied for by grant? All right, seeing none. The consensus is to approve?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll send a copy in my packet.
Do we need to take a vote on it? Okay. All right, town administrator wants a vote, so all in favor of approving the application for grant as property owner, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I see two.
Just that one page, and then Ann can sign as the applicant.
Okay. So the applicant is the first line, and the property owner is where we sign, right?
Yes, please.
Appears there's only one signature.
Yes.
So the chair is signing for, Ann will sign right here.
I need that back though, because that's my packet.
Oh,
Yeah, that's yours.
Thank you.
I got all the rest of your stuff too. All right, next item.
That's all I have for public session. I think Jared had something which I had applied loosely behind your packet.
Yeah, so in your packet, we have the transfer station items. So Jared, do you want to lead the discussion?
Yes. So myself and the recycling committee met on Thursday in a special working meeting, and we reviewed and updated the entire policy and fee schedule for the Deerfield transfer station. Prior to that, we were working off of one from 2002. It's pretty similar. We used a lot of rules and guidelines from some surrounding communities. You want me to read this whole thing?
Well, this will be in the record as a
This
part of the meeting minutes.
It'll be in the record.
But I think I'd like to hear, Jared, the philosophy that you've applied to
So,
what we pay for as a town and what the people pay for at, I mean, they pay for the tax for the town, but what they pay in the fees and how you determine the fees.
so in regards to the fee schedule, starting off with a lot of what we are collecting was very old numbers that did not cover the actual costs that the town pays to dispose of the stuff. Everything that goes inside those dumpsters, particularly the bulky waste and C&D dumpsters, as well as other items, what they refer to as white items like your washers, your dryers, refrigerators, we get charged an additional fee above and beyond the general tonnage when they dump it out at the landfill or their transfer station. So basically, we brought our fee schedule to what we're collecting to match what it's actually costing the town to get rid of it. However, the town still does absorb the trucking, the handling fees, the weight fees, but what the fees
Employee
actually,
salaries, employee salaries.
and the employee salaries, the handling stuff. But this basically just matches what it costs us to get rid of something. A lot of this stuff goes to the Raymond Transfer Station, which is owned by Casella. So an example would be a fire extinguisher. We are charging $4 to get rid of one. Casella charges us 10 when they find one in our waste. So we at least need to cover the expense of what the town is paying out to get rid of those items. Some of this stuff went up quite a bit, some of it only a little bit, some of it didn't change at all, and some of the stuff we took right off. We're no longer charging for things like scrap metal. Dump all you want. I could do a comparison on it. And a lot of other things such as TVs. TVs are actually very expensive to get rid of, and they actually do it by weight and size. So now TV disposal is based up on 32-inch and then over 32-inch. But again, what we're charging only matches what it costs us to get rid of it, but the town is still absorbing a lot of the costs, a lot of the actual, again, the handling and the weight and
Hauling.
and the hauling fees for all this stuff. The fees, just like when you drop stuff off to our transfer station, when we drop it off to the next location, we get charged for it as well. So it at least needs to cover what's going on. My thought behind this would be, yeah, you might have to pay to get rid of a mattress, but you get rid of a mattress every 10 years and you pay once for it versus you pay the lesser amount. Now everybody's paying a little bit every week for everybody to get rid of their mattresses. So it's more of a pay as you need type thing versus everybody absorbing all the cost. You might never get rid of a mattress, but if we're losing $35+ per mattress, the entire town is now absorbing the cost of one person getting rid of a mattress. We put a lot of thought into it. Numbers did go up. Some numbers went away. A lot of the policies are a lot clearer and easier to read and understand. I don't know if Suzanne would like to speak on it at all.
Thank you. So yes, there was a lot of time during the meeting, and it was very productive. I encourage you all to, read through it. I think some of the things that we took out, and as Jared said, made things clearer, was about the stickers, making sure that everyone was aware of the stickers, and took out things that really were not in play anymore. For instance, the old policy said that if you need a replacement sticker, you needed the original in order to do so. So there were certain things that we felt that was not necessary as long as there was proof of registration or a tax bill to prove that you owned property in the town. We hope that this does help clear up things for people. The one thing is, hopefully people read the rules and regulations. We'll start communicating that in various ways. We can't make people read, but we hope that it is something that makes sense to folks. And if they have questions, of course, we encourage them to ask. Throughout this document, you'll see in the individual items, which starts on number 8 for separation, it breaks down the acceptable materials. And you'll see that there are things that just say or start by saying, please see attendance before disposing. So that's throughout this document, and we hope that that helps clarify what we need people to do. Are there any questions?
So Jared, do you and the recycling committee seek approval to implement this policy and new fee schedule today?
I would, yes.
And I also have
Not-
one other thing that Maureen just shared, that there is something in here about the commercial. Do you want to speak to that,
Yeah.
Jared?
The town of Deerfield does not have a commercial hauling permit. We cannot take in any commercial waste. So any waste that's coming in from a commercial hauler cannot be accepted at the Deerfield transfer station. An example would be if somebody went around picking up bags of trash to other residents and they're getting paid for such, and they have a business that reflects what they do. Now that it's been touched through a third party, it's now become commercial waste, and the Deerfield transfer station cannot take that.
We're not licensed to take
We're
it.
not licensed to take that.
We would lose our license.
It puts it in jeopardy. So that was one of the things that we had previously had on there. There was actually a actual commercial hauling permit or a commercial permit that could be purchased, but it's probably a good thing that we never utilized that because we don't have a commercial permit ourselves with the state.
My understanding through discussion with Jared himself is that there have been some examples in the past where we feel like we have been taking some commercial trash without knowing it.
Absolutely. I mean, based on the numbers, especially with the C and D, the MSW, the solid waste is very tricky to figure out because it's very inconsistent as far as tonnages actually, but there's a very good chance that we've been being taken advantage of by contractors or small businesses in town, kind of bringing in more than their fair share of municipal solid waste.
So that brings up the point about residents who have a business here in town, who sell stuff and they have boxes or whatever, there's always been this kind of gray area where, well, they are a resident, they are paying taxes for that.
The difference is it's residential waste, and the permit actually says residential and some small business waste. The difference is if you have a business and you're generating enough waste to bring to the transfer station in separate vehicles or by the truckloads, that's kind of more than your fair share, which is a hard thing to say, but if you're allowing the residents to absorb the costs of you doing business, it's just not fair. It would be no different than, say, a restaurant in town, instead of having their own dumpster, bringing everything to the transfer station. It overwhelms the dumpsters, it takes an extra amount of attention from our attendants, and it really is commercial waste at that point, which we shouldn't be taking.
So is that clear in this new policy write-up that we do not accept commercial waste at the Deerfield transfer station?
Yes.
It's in section 5 on page 1.
Thank you.
Section 5. No commercial waste is accepted, period. That's pretty clear.
You don't have a commercial permit.
Yeah. We're not permitted to accept it. It's not a matter of,
There is a tremendous amount of small business owners in this town who use their vehicles to go to the dump. It'll be up to the transfer station attendants, unfortunately, to have to monitor what's going in and use their judgment. And if anybody wants to make an appeal to the Board of Selectmen, because within this, it also says the transfer station attendants will have the right to refuse loads. They can come before us and discuss what's going on and figure out if it's right or if it's wrong.
and there is not only a list of the things that are acceptable, but there's also a list of the things that are unacceptable.
Correct.
Correct. And we also added no smoking on the premises by residents or employees. And also clarified a bit on the burning, because there was information there on the original document about engaging with the fire chief, et cetera. We felt after a discussion that this burning, an active burn pile is managed by the transfer station. Attendants do not approach an actively burning or smoldering pile. We've had that for the last couple of weeks now, a smoldering pile. So, just trying to encourage people to be safe.
We put in a lot of stuff to help with liability. Keep people away from the burn pile, no discharge of firearms on the transfer station property, which it sounds ridiculous, but even though it's town land, the transfer station facility really shouldn't have hunters that close to it because it's still an active facility. So don't shoot your gun at the dump. I mean, we've heard from Missy that there have been hunters, particularly turkey hunters, in very close proximity to the dumpsters and the trucks. Whether they're passing through or not, it also states that when the gates are closed, nobody can be there. And that is protecting the town from liability. There's, trip and falls, there's falling off ledges, there's sharp objects, there's trucks and equipment in there that nobody should be around when it's open, and that's just smart for the town to enforce.
So as far as hunting, should that land be posted?
It should be posted.
It's easy enough.
It's a funny thing, because out in the back 40, I'd be okay with it, but the facility needs to have some kind of delineation beyond the landfill. Now, people can't be in the improved area when it's off limits, when it's off hours. And they shouldn't be hunting that close to it anyway.
So are you suggesting that we don't post the entire facility, but we cut off on a line and post a boundary?
I don't know how we do that, but that would be the ideal thing, because I don't want to cut off hunting for anybody. I just don't want them in the facility when it's closed, particularly shooting that close to it.
What's the general rule for distance between structures and shooting?
I think it's 300 feet.
300 feet?
300 feet.
Yeah. That's quite a ring around those structures then.
There's a wall of trees out behind where the dumpsters are. Against the backwoods. I would think that if you put signs out at the back,
Yeah.
it would probably be sufficient.
Even if it wasn't no hunting signs, it should be properly posted, no trespassing.
Yeah, just do
And
both.
put both
The
at
combo
that point.
signs, no hunting, no trespassing, no anything. It's just, that's a simple fix.
All right,
I have a question. I mean, this paper sounds like the recycling committee will be running the transfer station from now on? Is that what?
Thank you for mentioning that, Cindy. That is number 16. Solid Waste Committee, formerly the Recycling Committee. The Select Board shall appoint. So this Solid Waste Committee was in the original document from 2002. We just added formerly the Recycling Committee in this section. The rest of it, I believe, was in the original.
so this statement was in the original 2002 document, and you just added the alternate name, which is the recycling committee?
Yes.
Correct.
Well, also number 9
Well,
kind of talks to that too.
okay. I was going to say, before we get off of that, are we clear as to what the authority of the recycling committee and/or solid waste committee would be versus what the selectmen's authority over the operation of the transfer station will be? It seems like it's implying here that there's some authority of the, over the transfer station. Are we comfortable with that? Although it is a past policy, so
Where does it say that?
it's 16.
Advisory board.
The advisory board still has to answer to the Board of Selectmen.
It says,
Right, but this one states that it's advisory to the operation. So instead of the limited scope that it had before, it looks like it expands it towards operations of the facility
right, it
itself.
says advisory board to the operation of the transfer station recycling center facility to include but not limited to the development of rules and regulations, recycling procedures, et cetera, which could be anything. So I don't know, that does seem to be a broad statement of authority.
I would like to see it where, because they're very transparent with everything they do, the recycling committee, solid waste. It would be just like all of the other commissions where they have to consult with us with everything. But they're always on the lookout for stuff. So we'll probably be hearing from them quite a bit.
But the way this reads, it implies that they could change the procedures without consulting with us. Unless we change that language to say,
That's how that was intended.
right,
I-
I doubt that it was.
I mean, if you read it like that, fine, Will. I look at it as an advisory board to the operations of the transfer station. So we're an advisory board that would share information to say, this is something that we see, this is something that we've been told about, either by residents or by staff, to communicate with you and work in conjunction with the select board at the bottom of that. But if you feel like rewording it, this is why.
The word
this is
advisory
here.
in there makes it so it's advisory only.
Right,
I
it's,
I
I
really
agree
believe
with-
this is what it's been, first of all. I think, unfortunately did not bring the original document with me. It's at home. But it's on the website, actually. Oh, never mind, it's on the
No, we
website.
believe you. I was just questioning, well, I hadn't seen that, so I don't know. Did Missy get to read these too? Was she involved in, so,
She was not involved in that work session, but I forwarded her the document today.
and she felt
when
out
it got-
today?
Yes.
I'd like to hear her opinion before thank you for doing this. This is really good.
Yeah, could we ever come to the next meeting?
This doesn't need to be a final thing right now. This can get tabled to the next meeting and
I'd just like
go
to
under
get,
review.
they do it every day. So I kind of like to see,
well,
if
are you
they-
saying, Suzanne, that Missy has reviewed this?
Well, I sent it to Missy when we were done with all of our revisions, and she got that today.
Yeah,
And I've spoken with her today, but we didn't go into
okay.
line item with this document.
All right, so you feel that maybe a little more in-depth review by Missy should be waited for?
I think it's important to remember that the transfer station works for the town, and they answer to the Board of Selectmen, and it should be run as such. I definitely want her to review it and get her thoughts on it, but we're the ones who need to set that place into motion to make it function.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on
I
that.
agree. I
And
agree, but they're the ones doing the work. So I just wanted her to look at it. If she might have something more better,
no, definitely.
ideas
about-
that'll work.
sorry, I'm
But this can wait. It's not, I think this is very good. Like I said, I just think we need to include them, or maybe,
How about if we consider it in two portions? One is the transfer station fee
Yeah.
schedule. And we can approve that so we can stop the bleeding.
yes.
And then we can consider the revisions to the procedures after review
That's
by
fair.
Missy
I-
and her staff.
And even all of the changes to the fee schedule and the procedures and the policies, it's not gonna be on tomorrow morning's news. We gotta set it out a few weeks, give people fair notice.
Tomorrow morning's Facebook.
Tomorrow morning's Facebook. Give people time to prepare and understand what's going on. I would love to figure out a way to come up with some kind of, whether it was a mailer or a postcard or something inexpensive that could be handed out at the transfer station, as well as some other places in town that'll inform people on what's going on there, the proper way to dispose of certain things, the proper way or the best practices to recycle things, which is only gonna save the town money. We need to get some education out there fast.
I think we have a committee that's part of their charter is to help communicate with the community about
And
those kinds of
It
things.
is, but that committee doesn't have any money. So for them to get so much as a stack of business card-sized postcards.
Yeah, but they do
doesn't
have a
exist.
website, Facebook presence, right, with the community.
It's,
We do.
Well, we just saved $9,000 somewhere. We can get them some,
I mean, we could just have a stack of flyers handed out at the transfer station, you know?
a stack of getting something so we could get some flyers that could include QR codes, a couple of different platforms for getting people the information is what they need.
Yeah.
I don't know how much,
And this will be in the minutes of the meeting. It'll also be posted, I presume, on our town website, right? in a
I
procedure.
want everybody who comes through that gate to get something in their hand. And then this way, there's no excuses.
So I would propose that we approve the new fee schedule and make it effective sometime in the future, pick a date, line in the sand, and say, after this date, these are the fees that you'll be paying. If people have a stockpile of mattresses, they better bring them in right now.
Yep.
Suzanne's looking for you.
I just, before you go forward with that, I guess if you would like feedback from Missy on the document with the outline, I think it would also just be a good thing for her to review the fee schedule before you split the document up and move forward. It's going to take her, I don't know, a day or two to just look through it and at least say, we'd like to even split it up. Can you look at the fee schedule first and then look at the rest of the document? Do you have any feedback? Just a thought.
So you said it got forwarded to her email. Let's wait for confirmation that she's had a chance to open it, read it, review it, and get feedback on it.
Today, she said she got it.
She got it today,
She
but
got it today. I don't think she's reviewed it, but she got it
give
today.
her a day or two.
Okay, I just would like to enact the new fee schedule as soon as possible.
I agree.
So if we want to wait another,
So your next meeting is June 16th.
Even enacting the fee schedule, though, you got to set a date to do it. So if you want to set the
July
date
1st?
to do it,
And set it for July 1st? Or
July
if you
1st?
if you separate it and approve it today, you could enact it on the 15th. So it would be effective in 2
July
weeks.
1st.
July 1st. All right.
And then in 2 weeks after we approve it.
so we have no motion, but we do have discussion of an intention to enact a new fee schedule as of July 1st, and we will approve that at our next meeting, following the review of Missy and the transfer station employees. Acceptable?
Acceptable to me,
Okay.
no?
Jared, do you have other thoughts?
He's got a poker face, too.
Do you have other thoughts?
nope,
Okay.
let's run with it.
All right, let the minutes reflect the intended approval at the next meeting. We also had this is the report of the revenues coming in for different categories
Yes,
that's been published. This has been updated for this month.
yes.
So that's in your packet. It shows the number of fees collected for different items.
Oh, that wasn't in the packet, it was just in the mail folder. It was just the
Oh,
one
in
copy
my
that-
folder.
in the correspondence folder.
Anybody would like to see this? Maybe Jerry, would you like to take it? It's the up-to-date revenue by category. Okay. Next item of business. If there is no further business, any new business, is there any old business? Any selectmen want to bring up any other items? As far as I know, we've covered all the ground. Anything?
I have non-public,
All right, let's go to public comment
We
then.
have public?
non-public.
We have a non-public?
Well, so two things. I think we'll take the public comment before the non-public so that those don't have to wait for it. And then secondly, when we go to non-public, we have a tendency to shut off the Zoom call And I think what we want to do is leave it on because when we come back, that's a public session and we should have that still on. So if you just put it on mute, I think.
Okay,
Is this being run on our channel station,
it should be,
on our Breeze Line station?
it should be. I can turn on the TV on there. It's supposed to sync to that if you want to see.
Well, I know it's live on YouTube. People are watching
I
it
know,
live.
but some people don't do computers.
Okay. I guess we'd have to get Steve Gemelli or somebody to
Steve
verify.
said that the TV in the break room syncs to this monitor, so as long as you can see it on there, he said that it should be on the TV,
Okay.
on the public access channel.
Maybe we should start the TV up before every meeting, just to confirm, moving forward.
In the other room there?
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
confirm. Yeah.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
We certainly want as many people access as possible. All right, public comment.
Maureen Quinn, Nottingham Road. Just as someone who lives in the parade and experiences that intersection on a regular basis, I think the addition of the warning sign saying yield ahead is a significant improvement, alerting people that they need to yield. That being said, just the day before yesterday, I was approaching from the side, the right-hand side, to be able to get into, right before my driveway, and a truck just blew right past me. No slowing down, no hesitation. So I don't know if this is something that the select board could consider maybe asking the police chief or something, like maybe for a little while have someone hanging out there to try and change habits might be helpful. I don't know. It's just a thought. Because if people are, aware that there's going to be a cop sitting there, it might change their behaviors a little bit.
Thanks, Maureen. Suzanne?
Harvey Road. Yes, I wanted to reiterate what Maureen just said, since I live off the parade. I also like the idea of a sign letting people know. I also think it's very important the angle at which the sign is at the corner of the parade. Because if it's kind of facing either way, not necessarily does the person know who it belongs to. Okay, so I know that at the bottom of Nottingham Road, with all of the work that's been done with all the utility poles, when they put the wrong way sign back up, it certainly isn't the exact way it used to be. So that's what I was thinking, is that the angle at that yield and having one as well. And I also agree with Maureen, having some police presence to make people maybe learn a new way, that would be helpful. Okay, item 2. The Microsoft Office discussion. Do you have any other towns, what they're doing? Is there a way to find out from other towns to leverage that? If they've transferred to Microsoft Office and that whole suite versus the old, because there are a lot of towns that are all the same website version, so I just didn't know if they all use the same mail type thing. Just a comment. And then switching back to my favorite, the transfer station. Thank you for the quick information about the halls for the C&D. That is really very good information that you already have for 1 month, the change from 11 halls to 3 halls, and not net, but at least you have figures. I think that's fabulous. It would be nice to also get that information for our plastic. We've asked for that now a couple of times to get the real information for what our new plastic hauls are and how much we may not be, if there's any contamination or We're getting reduced money because of the quality of what's in the plastics. I know, standing in front of that bin, that it's not all clean, it's not all what it should be. And there was a very beautiful sign there that is no longer there. It went missing on Saturday morning. The sign is no longer there. We don't know what happened to it, but it did encourage people to do certain things. So would love to get information on plastics and other things as well. And I guess, yes, there are now new people at the transfer station, but they're certainly not fully trained. And that takes time and focus, and it's very hard to remain focused there with people coming at all directions and checking for dump stickers and people who are not friendly, not wanting to get a dump sticker or tell you that they're not going to put it on their vehicle. That takes time for anyone who is working there or helping out. There's a lot to do at that facility. There's a lot of moving parts. And just the C&D alone to monitor that, that's a long walk from all the way over there to if someone's doing something all the way the other side. And even if you've got 2 people in a floater, and then you got people that need to have new stickers, there's a lot of moving parts. So I think there's a lot more happening there. I guess I would just encourage everyone to spend hours, more than 15 minutes, to really see how the facility works. A whole day. Not that it would be fun, but you'd learn an awful lot about what happens there. So, thank you.
Your comment prompts me to thank yourself and Cindy, which I know have spent some time at the transfer station volunteering. And there's probably others that I don't know about that I just want to thank everybody that is volunteering from the community to do that.
Errol Roads, Church Street. Following on that, I should also say that the authority coming from the Select Board in doing that, in putting the steel into the velvet glove is, I think, critically important. I think people, you saw a fellow right here resign because people weren't respectful. So I think the Select Board backing these things, I think, is big. So thank you for that. Thank you for that effort. On the website, is Civic Plus going to stay on the new? Is it going to be still Civic Plus, or are you moving to a different platform for the website?
They called and left us a message today saying that we're moving, but I don't know what that entails. So Steve he's got to follow up and work out those details.
But, so we're staying with Civic Plus or going to a different platform?
I think Civic Plus is I think they're doing some updates on the back end that we will need to comply with. So I think the intention would be to stay with Civic Plus, and then they will help us move the domain from a .com to a .gov.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And Cindy, when you're ready for non-public, on the town administrator's report at the bottom, I wrote the statutes in which we are going in under.
Is there any other public comment? Mr. Dillon.
Yeah, just Tom Dillon, Haynes Road. Just something the select board might want to think about. I generally approve what I've heard tonight for I'll call it the dump. But I was thinking this morning as I cruised by a new pile of discarded tires on Mount Light Road, that there's going to be a cost to this too. And you guys should be thinking about that. You know, how you can do more enforcement, that people aren't dumping illegally. And also, as far as the situation on Nottingham Road, you can put any color sign you want there, unless there are, unless there's somebody there to see them and correct them, it's not going to do a heck of a lot of good. I mean, how many times have people come to your board about the end of Church Street and the four-way stop at Meeting House Hill and Mount Light Road? And those are all stop signs. People cruise through them all the time. I was happy about a week ago to see the police there kind of monitoring the situation, and I'd encourage you to have the department do more of that on the back roads.
All right, any other public comment? Seeing none, we will,
Karen, I don't have a letter. It just says two. It's Al. Holy moly.
It won't be long, I don't think.
A, D, and L, okay. We're going to non-public 91A3, Roman numeral 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him and her unless an employee affected has a right to a meeting, and 2, request a meeting to be open, in which case the request shall be granted. We got D, consideration of acquisition, sale, or lease of real estate property, which if benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. And L, consider of legal advice provided by legal counsel, whether in writing or orally, to one or more members of the public body, even when legal counsel is not present. It's 3 different ones.
all right, we have a motion to go into non-public for that reason. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's a roll call vote, so Greg?
Yes.
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 to remember to unmute it, right?
I did unmute it. Oh, I need
All right, the microphones are on, and we are ready to reconvene the public session after the non-public session.
I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public meeting.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? This requires a roll call vote, so Greg?
Yes.
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
And yes. Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?